The reverb. Okay, ready? Click. And we're back. To the Goblin Squad. It's Brooke.
And Sarah.
What up?
Nothing. Nothing's up.
That was totally the first time we did that intro. I don't know what you're talking
I
about.
don't know what anyone thinks. And when we did the intro, I immediately looked away from the camera. I was like...
And fair warning, I think I got at least one of them, but we might have some uninvited guests
You might
on the
hear
pod
them.
today
Yeah.
in the form of...
They
There were 2 giant flies in here.
were
Bastards.
pretty big.
They were.
Yeah.
Honkers. So I have our notes from last week to assassinate
He
them.
was trying to murder them before we got going, but they're too wily.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we'll get them.
We'll get
It'll be fine. I am excited for this week's app.
I mean, winged dark creatures is apropos.
It was.
Yeah.
It's like they knew.
They did know. We're going to claim that.
Yeah, because what are we talking about this week?
A long-awaited and requested episode, The Mothman.
And something else.
Oh, yeah, but we'll get to that.
We'll get there.
We'll
It's
get
a
there.
surprise.
Yeah.
And I know not of what it is.
People that love
So.
Mothman probably are like, we know Sarah. We know what it is. And I'm like, oh, okay. But also, you know me. I love a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And I saw this rabbit hole, and then I took a diving headfirst leap into it because I just am fascinated by this subject. So.
Oh, yeah. And
Yeah.
it worked out because we ended up going like we tend to do in
Opposite directions.
different directions.
Which is fine.
And I think they'll tie together nicely.
I think they
I'm
will too.
intrigued. Where shall we start?
So, let's talk about cryptids for a second.
Let's do it.
So, on this pod, we've covered a few.
Oh, yeah.
We've talked about, of course, arguably everyone's favorite, the most popular cryptid of all time, which would be
Bigfoot.
Bigfoot. Yep.
Yes.
The Sasquatch.
Sam Squanch.
The Yeti.
Yeah. Yes.
We've talked a little bit about lake monsters.
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Rocky. Shout out.
Yep, shout out. We've covered...
The Wasset.
the Wasset, indeed. The Squonk. Holds
Shout-
a special place.
Shout out to him. Him
Everybody.
and his bubbles.
So sad.
Cry.
Just dissolving into foam.
We love the squonk. The hodag.
The hodag, yep. There's many a cryptid, but only one cryptid holds a special place in pop culture the way the Mothman does.
Yeah.
It's confusing.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a bit alarming
Yes.
for a few different reasons. But let's start with the basics.
Yes.
So, what is the Mothman?
What is he?
So let's talk about the origins of the Mothman and go from there.
All right.
Should I hit you with the OG, the details, the emergence of the Mothman?
Because which OG are you talking about?
Well,
'Cause
let's talk about the pop culture OG.
Okay.
Not the before 20th century.
Oh, I'm in 20th century.
You're in 20th
It's just there's
There-
different first sightings claims.
So there's 2 quote unquote first sightings.
Yes.
However, both of them occurred within 3 days
Yep.
of each other. So when I was first researching, what happened here? The first sighting that came up was the most famous, the November 15th, 1966,
With the 2 couples.
with 2 couples, so
Yes.
4 people who claimed that they saw a thing.
Mm-hmm.
However, there was a much less reported upon sighting 3 days earlier in a town nearby.
Clendenin? Yes.
Clendenin.
West
Clendenin,
Virginia.
West Virginia.
Yes.
In which 4 or 5, depending upon the account, grave diggers. Let's start with that.
Just digging a grave.
Also, I have a question. Like,
Just from the jump.
just from the jump, why were there 4 or 5 men digging a grave?
Faster. Maybe it was for their friend.
I have so many questions. Because
Why were they doing it at night?
1966. If they were doing it at night, which, again, I guess stereotypically, maybe that's
Just
a thing.
adds to the lore.
In the 60s, they were prepping the
night
grave for
in
the
a grave.
next morning.
Right?
I don't know.
Maybe.
But again, you would think that, like, you wouldn't need to dig a grave at night unless it was a surprise.
Right.
Like, oh,
Surprise.
oh no, we better dig this hole.
Push him in.
Yeah. And also, like, how you can't fit. I mean, how many people could actually be digging at one time? Also, it's 1966. You were using shovels? Like, what were you doing? I had a lot of questions to start with.
Small town, maybe. West Virginia.
But then there's my follow-up question. How many gravediggers does that small town employ?
Right.
Like,
I think
you ever seen a cemetery employ more than one gravedigger?
Yeah, there's usually creepy groundskeeper.
A guy.
Groundskeeper
usually,
Willie.
Yeah. Who lives in a house.
Yeah.
We're making this up fictionally right now. Completely. And that man lurks around.
Yeah.
If you go there during the day, he's behind his rep.
Yeah.
Looking mysterious. It could be Thaddeus. It was Thaddeus Grimble the entire time. See the last previous 3 to 4 episodes.
Oh, yes.
So these 5 men claimed that while they were digging a grave, specifically, in Glendon, West Virginia, they saw what they described as a large, brown, winged human being.
Yeah. Man-like creature.
Shape with wings fly low over their heads. Low over their heads. I have so many questions. It was brief and strange.
Terrifying.
Yes, and then that's it.
Yeah.
That's like the extent of the sighting.
Yeah, that was basically all I could find on it. It was not like an animal or bird or anything they had ever seen.
No, they didn't even
flying gargoyle.
Yeah, they didn't even try to be like, maybe it was a lost golden eagle. You know, they were just like, a giant man with wings flew slightly over our head while we were digging a grave in the middle of the night.
But I almost believe that more than like other Bigfoot stories where it's like, I chased him and his rippling back muscles. And I was like, did you? No.
Yeah. No.
You're not going to chase something that large and frightening. You're going to be like, and keep digging your grave.
Probably not. I don't know. The grave digging at night in 1966 threw me off from the get. I was like,
what's happening?
Really?
Yes.
However, the much more publicized and well-known original sighting comes 3 days later, November 15th, 1966. Near the little town of Point Pleasant, which is now famous because of Mothman, in a notorious area near the town known as the TNT area.
Yeah.
And of course, it was called the TNT area because it was the site of a former munitions factory during World War II. Mm-hmm. Very industrial. So I've asked you this. Have you watched Hemlock or read Hemlock Grove or watched Hemlock Grove?
No.
Okay, so for any goblins who have watched the Netflix version or whoever produced Hemlock Grove, the vibes from the first season of Hemlock Grove, that town, and I will have to look up where they filmed Hemlock Grove because they're trying to give New England vibes, but the town vibes are exactly the same vibes as Point Pleasant, where it is like a small town, everybody knows everybody's business, the same families have lived there forever, and in the heart of the town is this bizarre industrial district that gives it weird, like, spooky vibes. I mean, Point Pleasant looks exactly like Hemlock Grove. Like, exactly.
So if you
like
want a
Hemlock
visual,
Grove, yes.
Check that out. For
the
sure.
vibe check already. It already goes. Also, we should talk about the details of this first sighting. Do you want to talk about what happened, the supposed first sighting, the incident?
Oh, yeah.
Let's get into it.
All right. So, 2 young couples, right? We got Roger and Linda Scarberry and Steve and Mary Millette. They're in this area, by the abandoned munitions plant. It's about 11:30 p.m.
Oh, nighttime.
Right.
Shenanigans.
They're driving around
Like you do.
Roger's 57 Bel Air.
Sounds
the
like
perfect setting for
good
like
night.
the beginning of a horror movie.
It's November. It's dark.
When they see something strange in the shadows. They thought it was a large man standing in the road in front of their car.
Ugh, already bad.
And,
Nobody...
you're West Virginia in the 60s. It's nighttime. There's a big guy who appears to be wearing like a cloak.
Nope.
Or like
automatic nope.
Just lurking by an old power plant.
It seems mildly suspicious. Let's check it out, gang.
Concerning.
Yeah.
Concerning. When they got closer, they saw something else entirely.
Oh, God.
A tall figure, 6 to 7 feet. Again, human-like shape. So, consistent with the first sighting. Humanoid with large wings folded against its back. Sure. Linda said like angel's wings, almost.
Oh, angel's wings.
Right, so we're thinking feathery, not bat.
Yeah.
Right, hence the moth.
Moth, yes. Moth.
The most notable feature, again reported by Linda Scarberry, was its 2 glowing red eyes reflecting back the car's headlights.
That's rough.
Eyes the size of baseballs, about 2 inches apart. Just, bow!
That's very big.
Very big.
That's very big.
You think it's a big guy, it turns around.
Direct eyeball contact.
Yes. So they're watching on from the Bel Air. The creature unfolds its wings and flew into the air.
Did it flap?
Not flapping like a bird, but simply soaring up from the ground like a helicopter or like Superman.
That is my favorite thing about every sighting of Mothman.
He's just like,
just straight up. No flapping.
Literally. No.
This is not a Jeepers Creepers scenario here. This Mothman floats up like a goddamn angel. Just, with his giant eyes.
So horrified. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Speed away. Just, oh my God. Driving around. And the creature pursues their car, allegedly flying at speeds close to 100 miles an hour. They said they were clocking like 95, and he kept getting close to the car, flying away. Getting close to the car, flying away.
So that's the part I also find really interesting, is that they were very open about their speed, because they did, as they're like careening away, right?
Yeah.
They do something logical, which normally people are like, I went home and I went under my bed and I pretended to forget. That's not what they did.
Nope.
Because they were like, oh my God,
like,
we're going to die.
Die.
We should do what logical people do.
Yes, they did.
And they
went straight to the Mason County Courthouse.
They went to the police.
And filed a report with Deputy Millard Halstead.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah.
That's
and
the police.
Sheriff
Whoop,
George
whoop.
Johnson.
That's the police. Yeah.
And Linda Scarberry was reportedly so shaken, she later experienced a nervous breakdown and was treated for shock.
Poor Linda.
And the police actually saw how freaked out these couples were and didn't think their story was made up. Yeah. Like, their fear was genuine.
They thought something followed them.
Yeah, they went to investigate and set up patrols, and they took it a little more seriously because the next day there was another sighting.
Tell me more.
So November 16th, around 9 p.m., Marcella Bennett, 21 years old, carrying her infant daughter, little teeny Tina, in her arms.
She's so smart.
She, along with other family members, Midwestern goodbye. You're leaving someone's house, you're talking around the car.
You just hang out. It takes an hour and a half to leave a gathering.
Everyone's kind of walking back. They're at the Thomases' house. They're around with all these other family members. A figure appeared behind their parked vehicle.
Automatically no.
Reportedly, in some accounts, then went on the Thomases' porch and roof.
What?
It rose up slowly from the ground, a big gray thing, bigger than a man, with terrible glowing red eyes.
It's the eyes.
And that's directly from Marcella Bennett, who screamed and, panic-stricken, dropped her baby. And fell to the ground in shock. The incident is famous for the fact that when Bennett saw it, she was so startled she dropped her baby.
She dropped her damn baby on the ground. Her new baby.
Bennett's remark about Mothman's terrible glowing red eyes is a frequently quoted description.
Yeah.
As this thing unfurled its huge wings, another family member snatched up the child and herded the witnesses back to the safety of the house. Right?
My God.
Get the baby!
Look, I mean, what does it eat? Maybe it eats babies. Like, we don't know.
We don't know
what it is.
No. Chupacabra. The dingo. When they went to phone the police, again, West Virginia, these people are like, we got something's going on. Go directly.
Appalachia.
Yes. So the creature, when they went to phone, the creature seemed to have shuffled along behind the group, coming onto the porch and peering in at them through the window.
But, like, what if it's just a creepy old guy? Like, let's put it into context here. Like, if this was a person, like, in a raggedy blanket with like glasses on, can you imagine how freaking terrifying, just like shuffling after you? Like, it's way scarier than a Mothman.
It is
like
it
a
really
person
is.
Mothman. Like, imagine if it was just a big huge Mothman with big glowing red eyes and it was like, hello, looking in the window. You'd be like, that's unnerving. But
I would like to come in for some potato salad.
If it was a person, you'd be like, shoot first. Like, ask questions later.
Get off my yard.
Also, this is West Virginia. You think those people didn't have guns?
Oh, no.
You know they did.
Police. And so peering at him in the window.
That's too much, Mothman.
The unknown bird-like animal vanished by the time the police arrived.
Oh, it was gone.
Classic case.
Classic.
Marcella Bennett was so traumatized, she eventually sought medical attention. They honestly shared their encounter to local authorities and news people as they wished to warn others. Mm-hmm. And over the next few days, other residents around the TNT area began reporting similar sightings, and the legend rapidly snowballed.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Local media, especially the Point Pleasant Register, picked up the story with a front page article titled Couples see man-sized bird ... creature ... something.
Something.
Yeah. But everybody in the area was talking about it. Radio, local news stations,
it was
just
all
word
over
of
the
mouth.
place.
The local diner. Everyone's like, the bird.
Did you see it?
Or Big Bird, which when I heard that was so funny to me. Because could you imagine? Just Big Bird.
Like actual Big Bird looking in the window. Fucking snuffleupagus, like, whoa.
Snarf.
Like, just looking in, like, what up? You know that whole snuffleupagus being Big Bird's imaginary friend thing?
Oh, yeah.
And how I didn't know. This was like IHOP all over again. Because as a kid, I had never seen an International House of Pancakes. Yeah. Didn't know, right? Also, fully didn't know as a kid that in the early days of Sesame Street, no one could see Snuffleupagus except Big Bird. I didn't know that.
And then you watch it back.
Yeah. I had no idea. I was like, why aren't they talking to him? Like, I was so mad as a kid. I was like, they're just ignoring Snuffy. Like, he's just there giving good ideas and blinking, and ain't nobody even turning their heads. Had no idea.
It just Big Bird's little buddy.
But in a twist of fate, as the series goes on, you will notice that other people on Sesame Street begin to acknowledge Snuffy and begin to talk to Snuffy as if Snuffy is really there, which means Snuffy is a tulpa. Which we will get into. I'm not ready to reveal.
Oh, we're not ready?
I'm not quite there.
Oh, I got more for you.
We got to finish up. We need one more sighting because it was all over the town, right? It was all over Point Pleasant. People were losing their minds.
Oh, dude, it was everywhere.
There's a monster at the TNT factory. 2
volunteer firemen who reported a sighting said it was a large bird with red eyes. Local contractor Newell Partridge told the sheriff, George Johnson, that when he aimed a flashlight at a creature in his nearby field, its eyes glowed like bicycle reflectors.
Oh.
And he also went on to blame the Mothman for the disappearance of his German Shepherd.
And Mothman be taking dogs?
Could have been unrelated. But he saw that, and then his dog went missing, and he was like, Mothman! Ah, my dog!
Mud. Mothman now just has a pet German Shepherd. He's like, hey, bud. Just in the forest. Like, it just runs under him as he flies.
They're just at the munitions plant.
Yeah.
Like,
Hey, he was a mean guy.
I will find you food.
Need some snacks. Just tapping on the window. I need dog biscuits. Just scratching on the windows.
He puts on a disguise to go into town.
Just a hat. Just a hat.
Big sunglasses. You gotta cover those eyes. Those baseballs. Oh my God, those comically large glasses.
Huge glasses. Good day. Just rings up a box of milk bones and just.
I mean, I'm selling him the milk bones. If Mothman comes in the store and I'm the clerk,
take whatever he hands you because it's not going to be money.
He's like just
pine cones.
Oh my God, because it'd be like a Corvid.
Yeah. He just brings you a string.
I brought you a button and a dime that I found.
And you're, thank you.
Does he have pockets?
I don't know.
Puts it in a flap.
In my mind, he's wearing a trench coat. So, he has so many pockets.
I like it.
Yeah.
To put all his dog biscuits.
So what I'm hearing you say is that around this time in the 60s,
no idea what that was.
Something made a sound.
It was I recently put my work email on my phone.
Oh.
So it's Outlook.
That's the worst. I was like, that sounded like an official Microsoft sound.
It's an Outlook notification. I forgot to turn it off.
Ew.
Yeah.
It's the weekend.
It was a spam email from Menards.
Ew.
I mean, say a big
Also
one.
Menards.
Yeah. 11%.
So much.
Turn in your receipts.
Every time. So what I'm hearing you say
yes,
is that Mothman was everywhere
at
this time.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, there were over 100 sightings of something at this time.
Mm-hmm.
So it begs the question, what is Mothman?
Oh, there's theories.
So if all of these people in this town suddenly start to report sightings of a between 6 and 7 foot tall humanoid with wings and glowing red eyes. Sometimes the eyes are in a face, but the face is very obscured. Sometimes the eyes are just set in what is referred to as the chest.
Yeah.
Where it's just like there's no head.
It's like and
it's just like a torso.
What's the purple guy from McDonald's?
Grimace?
Where it's like that, but with wings and then just like a nugget shape.
Like a nugget shape. Yeah. Like a nugget, basically. But with giant baseball-sized glowing red eyes.
So scary.
And wings. And sometimes people describe it as having talons, but sometimes it just has feet and hands. It's all over the place. And then eventually it moves to a moth type.
Yeah.
But then there's bat wings. None of it makes any sense.
No.
But what could it be?
Perhaps a sandhill crane, which... Did you come across that one?
I did.
I have a picture of that.
You know what a
which
sandhill
I'll
crane.
insert here.
This is what a sandhill crane looks like. Here. I've seen them in real life many a time. They're about 4 feet tall.
Yeah.
The only thing that I do find of note about sandhill cranes is the noise that they make. Because sandhill cranes make an incredibly prehistoric sound.
like those fucked up weird birds?
Yeah.
They sound like gunshots.
Well, and they make... maybe we can insert the sound.
Oh, probably.
We might be able to.
Just us.
And if we can't, that was a moment of awkward silence.
I'll just put like a 404 not found.
Yeah. But it's not even a sound I can replicate. Like, and I try to make bird sounds all the time. It is not a sound that human beings can make.
Because I believe it was the Marcella who, when they initially saw the creature, they heard like a ch-ch.
Yeah, like a sound, and also they described like a metallic sound and like a weird... Imagine if you're being hunted by the predator. Like, that was kind of what they were describing.
Yeah. Or it's that, like, guttural throat
And weirdly,
sound,
sandhill cranes make a lot of very unusual, kind of, like, unearthly or, like, Precambrian sounding.
Especially if you're not used to them.
Yes.
Because they're not native to that area. Right? Wouldn't one have to have, like...
They have a lot of...
gone off on its own.
Yeah, the cranes, they have flight pathways and stuff, and there are other species of cranes and things like that. So, like, it's not really out of the realm of possibility. And we have a lot of sandhill cranes here, especially moving down into, like, southern Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, and over to Nebraska.
Yeah.
There's thousands of them. But I never get bored of seeing them because they're huge and they're loud. And they do a dancey dance, and it's, like, really weird looking. And so people are freaked out by them because they're like dinosaurs. They are dinosaurs.
And they're mad big.
However, a couple things. Thing one, their eyes, they do not glow of their own accord. Now, if you're shining a light onto their face, you might get a little eye shine, but it's not going to be like an alligator's eyes
when they
or
get that,
like a deer
shift.
Yeah, it's not the same. Also,
it's like they have a red top of the head.
They do,
which I think was the theory.
And
yeah,
and also, like, they cannot fly at 100 miles an hour.
Oh, I thought you were gonna just period. They cannot fly.
They can fly. But also, like, the idea that they could chase... There's literally no reason on planet Earth why a sandhill crane would intentionally follow a person.
Like, specifically vehicles, too. Because that was so...
Yeah.
There's many cases.
There's a fantastic... I don't know if it's a TikToker or whatever, but it's a woman who... I'm not sure if she raised this crane.
Oh.
Or if she was a rehabber or what the scenario is, but she has a male sandhill crane that came to her door of her house every single day and, like, pecked on it. I'm guessing she hand raised it. Then it got a mate, and it brought its mate to the house. And then it brought its baby to the house. And so, like, every day she's like, hi. And it will...
Like, look what I've done.
He will interrupt, like... She's like, I'm trying to watch a show. Like, the crane. And if you don't answer the door, he gets increasingly agitated and is, like, going around the house to other doors and windows. So there's Mothman looking in your window like, what up? So it's not like they wouldn't interact with people, but it's a rare occurrence. It's not like a wild crane's going to do that. And what else?
Fly 100 miles an hour.
And pursue them.
Yes.
Making their little kikiriki sounds.
Kikiriki!
So, if it's not a sandhill crane, what else could it be?
Well, I have a lot of other theories from one Mr. John Keel.
Oh, lay it on me.
All right. So again, everybody and their mother started going to the TNT area.
They all wanted to
with
see
all these sightings. Because everyone's like, there's a giant bird chasing cars.
And it was a shoot first, ask questions later scenario. Yeah. It was like, quoting one documentary I watched, it was the Mothman of Point Pleasant or something like that. Can't remember what year. It was like a 2000-something, 2004 maybe documentary. It's on Amazon if you want. I think one of the character actors in there was like Jaws out there, man. There's just people with guns. There's a shark, but it's a moth. Like,
oh no.
Yeah. That was the vibe.
Well, because I mean it's 60s small town West Virginia. They didn't have stuff like this happening all the time.
Not really.
And for so many people to claim to have interactions so eerily similar, you know.
People were freaked. People were freaked.
So who goes to Point Pleasant? Mr. John Keel.
John Keel's an interesting cat.
Very interesting.
He's...
We were both listening to separately an Art Bell episode, I believe from 2002, when the Mothman Prophecies movie came out with one Richard Gere, which I haven't watched. And I was going to watch it last night by myself. And then I watched the trailer and then I went on Reddit and people said it was really creepy and haunted their childhood. And I was like, I'm not going to watch this by myself at midnight because that sounds like a bad idea for me.
I have heard that it messed some people up when it first came out.
I guess they like there's barely even like where Mothman is shown. It's like psychological weird thriller. So, I mean, I still want to watch it, but maybe in the daytime.
Yeah. It sounds like a more me.
Mothman looking in the window.
Yeah. It definitely sounds like a more me vibe movie that like I would watch on a Sunday morning or something.
I'm just a baby.
It's all right. I used to be so scared.
Yeah.
But
need to desensitize a little bit.
Yeah,
but
it's all good.
So investigative journalist, which okay. So my dude was working for Playboy.
He wrote
doing
those
like UFO
real
stories.
That you'd read in the front of the Playboy.
So whenever there was like a weird paranormal thing, he would go there and write. And
he's like the guy that would investigate Bat Boy. Wasn't he on his way to investigate a cat with wings?
Yes!
Like
that fell off because it was just a matted cat.
It was just glued on or something. And then the kid was like, oh, shit. My famous cat. I was making a dime a sucker every time somebody came in here. And then my cat's wings fell off.
The kid was fully just doing hodag.
He was.
Like before.
Same price. Yeah,
it was
same
10
price.
cents. We're just basically, come see my really matted cat.
Yeah.
So matted it looks like it has wings.
There's some big mats.
It just got into some brambles.
It's like, help me.
Help me. I need a lion cut. Stat.
Somebody save me. Oh, that poor cat. So he traveled all the way to Point Pleasant area.
Yes.
To see a matted cat.
Yeah, because he, I think, was originally in New York area and then would just kind of go wherever the weird story
in
was.
the 60s.
Vibe.
To be the guy, like, you know the kind of guy. He's like the stereotype they have in every movie now who like comes rolling out of his Airstream trailer with his Charlie Day strings and his glasses and he's kind of dirty and he's an alcoholic and he's going to chain smoke. I don't know
Woody
if
Harrelson's character in
True
2012.
Oh, in or in
True
Detective. Matthew McConaughey in True Detective. Like,
just stop saying weird shit.
Geeked out, you know. But that was his job. He drove around and wrote these articles, and I was like, if I was a kid and we were living in a different decade, I'd be like, sign me up, John Reed. I'm doing it.
Oh, immediately.
I wanted to start a paranormal research investigative crew when I was 8. I kept a binder of articles.
Scooby-Doo.
I photocopied things off microfiche, and
hell yeah,
yeah, but it was deemed too weird. Oh, but it was
a little weird binder.
I know. I wonder what happened to that. Yeah, it's probably.
But now you have a dedicated pod to weird shit.
So it's fine.
Yeah. So he goes there, stays for months.
Also unusual.
Yeah.
Can you even get a long-term rental that you could afford for months or a short-term rental?
Are you just in a weird motel?
He was in a supernatural motel. You know he was. Again, Brooke's never watched it. She has no idea.
Yep. I will get there.
He was in a supernatural motel. Just it's giving 80s horror movie vibes.
So, after, his investigations, he later wrote The Mothman Prophecies, an investigation into the mysterious American visits of the infamous feathery Garuda, which in Hindu mythology is like a divine eagle-like bird, the mount of Vishnu. So that his comparison of Mothman, he theorized that Mothman wasn't just a creature, but a manifestation.
Oh, we're going to get into that too.
A psychic projection or interdimensional being.
Always with the dimensions.
Capable of influencing human perception, possibly part of a larger intelligence he called the ultra-terrestrials, being not from other planets, but from other dimensions or planes of existence who occasionally intersect with our reality. He also theorized that Point Pleasant was a window area, a geographic location where the veil between dimensions thins.
Does it always have to look like fucking New Jersey at the window areas? Like, why are all the thin places like a 7-Eleven on the corner of 16th and Practice? Like
the Nexus from Charmed, like the OG Charmed.
It's the fucking Hellmouth,
the point
under
where
Buffy.
All of it meets.
Yeah, like
the Hellmouth.
What the
very that. So he in these window areas where there would be flaps, basically where this window's open like a curtain.
Sure.
That all this weird shit would happen. So you have multiple paranormal phenomena occurring simultaneously.
Yep, phenomena.
UFOs, cryptids, poltergeist activity, odd lights, men in black, time slips.
Which time slips were also involved?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Some Point Pleasant locals reported missing time episodes after spotting lights or hearing high-pitched sounds in the TNT area. Because during this time, there was a lot of weird, like, UFO sightings, and often interlinked with these Mothman encounters. One teenager claimed they walked into the woods to investigate a screeching sound. Because again, everyone's like, "What's all this
dark.
weird stuff?"
Let me walk into the woods after a ear-piercing, life-shattering scream. Jesus. Let me go check that out.
Yeah. And came out hours later.
Hours.
Confused and disoriented, even though they thought only 20 minutes had passed.
Did he take the edible before or after he went in the woods?
Don't eat the brown acid.
I told you not to eat the whole cookie.
Right. Again, it was the 60s.
It was a wild time.
Yeah.
He got Muffin Man.
He interviewed the witnesses and became convinced the event was linked to broader paranormal activity, including these UFO sightings and men in black appearances. And speaking of, I don't know if you want me to go right into said men in black.
Well, let's go into men in black. And then we're going to circle back to John's hypothesis about a manifestation or a collective consciousness.
Yes.
So tell me about these men in black, because this isn't... We've danced around the idea of men in black for a long time.
They're fucking scary.
Because they scary. Tell me about men in black and Mothman.
If you're not familiar, we're not, it's not Will Smith and Tommy Lee.
Which is too bad.
I know.
Because the shenanigans...
I mean, the blinker.
That would solve a lot of, that would explain the time slips.
Yeah. We're talking, oh my God. It would.
Tommy Lee Jones is just out in West Virginia in the 60s blinking people. That's enough of that. Too much fun. You're having too much fun.
So we're talking actual full-fledged men in black. They are a common figure in many paranormal stories or investigations where they often threaten or intimidate witnesses into silence. Described as pale, emotionless men in dark suits, often driving black cars like old Cadillacs or Lincolns. They're said to speak in odd, stilted, or outdated language and appear unfamiliar with normal social behavior.
So, what are they suggesting here? Like,
because it is a very common theme
that
where it's like they're almost not on that paranormal
like
line
uncanny
themselves.
valley.
Yeah, like described as like waxen skin. Like
I don't like that at all.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Creepy.
Don't like that.
Many locals, including Mothman witnesses, reported being visited by strange men asking oddly specific questions
once again
about the creature or paranormal activity. And again, small town West Virginia, it's just you have a dude in a suit in a black caddy coming up knocking on your door. Like, odd.
That's
right?
It's not.
And sometimes posing as government agents, journalists, or researchers.
All of that's bad.
Right.
Every
don't like this.
None of this is good.
Witnesses described the men as having waxen or sickly complexions.
Were like
gray.
Oh, no.
Strange eyes and robotic demeanors. Just like very... Some even claimed they knew details that they hadn't told anyone else. Very much don't like that.
No.
Linda Scarberry, one of the OG witnesses, claimed she and her family were harassed by men in black. Odd phone calls, unmarked cars parked outside of their home, and men watching her. Mary Heyer, a local reporter for the Athens Messenger, who covered the Mothman story just extensively, received numerous visits from men in black-like figures. One man in particular came to her office repeatedly asking questions about UFOs and strange lights. He reportedly became aggressive when she refused to cooperate and once even tried to steal her files after suggesting she stop her reporting.
Ew.
Mary described him as having hypnotic eyes, a bizarre appearance, and being unfamiliar with everyday objects like a pen. John Keel experienced
Johnny boy.
dozens of bizarre interactions during his investigations into the Mothman. He received strange phone calls, many with electronic sounding voices. Now, we're in the 60s.
Yes.
Right? You know, we're not like, hey Siri.
Yeah.
Doing all that.
It is the Mothman.
Right, very.
Your appointment for Mothman is scheduled.
Press 2. Very that.
I don't understand.
And notice that many witnesses became deeply paranoid after being visited by these men. Fair. There was an eyewitness, Miss Faye Laporte.
Faye.
During this time, her and her brother drove up to the TNT area because they had heard about the Mothman in school and wanted to go have a look for themselves. When they got within a few blocks of the old plant, Faye's brother saw something out of the window of her side of the car. He slammed on the brakes and they skid to the side. They reported that thing they saw jumped right onto the hood of the car.
That's very close. If something jumped on the hood of my car, I would be like, the screaming, first of all.
Yeah.
The swearing.
The panic.
The profanity. And the way I would immediately hit either the gas or the brake or something. It would be an involuntary response.
Fight or flight.
Yeah.
Or freeze.
Something is happening.
They felt frozen in time as they looked back and forth, at the creature through the car's windshield.
Equivalent thing jumping on, let's pick a thing that we know is real to jump on your car. Okay, let's say you whip your car over to the side of the road.
I mean, it'd be just as strange as if it was like a gorilla, I imagine. Because what are you doing here?
I don't know.
Like a large ape.
I don't know. What do you do in that scenario if something unusually large?
I mean, I'm full
So it jumps
gas.
on the hood of the car.
Jumps on the hood of the car.
Freeze.
They're staring at it, freezing. And as she reported, she was like, it could have been 5 seconds. It could have been 5 minutes, 10 minutes. They were just frozen. And then eventually the flight kicked in. They got the fuck out of there. It flew away. They, like many before them, went straight to the sheriff's department.
Oh.
And reported what they saw, right? The next day, soldiers cordoned off all public access to the former munitions plant. And Faye and her brother went back up there, like you do. They saw the blocked off area, people in military uniform, and 2 or 3 men in black suits talking to them.
What?
One of the strange men walked up to their car, put his hand on the door, and shouted at them, "You were told to leave, now leave." And they're in high school, oh my God, get the fuck out of here.
We're leaving.
And the theories about these men in black, right? Are they government operatives trying to suppress or control knowledge of paranormal phenomena? Some believe they're not human. Possibly extra-dimensional beings or AI, basically.
I mean,
Haley Joel Osment. You see that recent video of him? Sidebar. He got arrested on a ski hill. Dude is not doing
He's
great.
not doing great.
No.
That's what happens when you see dead people.
He did. It's like that movie messed him up. It's not good. But so back in.
And we're back.
Sorry, I was just yeah.
Just saying.
So again, some people think they're a cryptid version of themselves, or that they are a product of mass hysteria, basically, like a paranoia and anxiety amplified by local lore and media, which a lot of people even think Mothman itself could be a part of that too, where it's small town, nothing like this has happened before. One person saw something, then you did, so it must be true. Then everyone starts seeing it, and it snowballs and it snowballs. Yeah.
Could it be a tulpa?
A tulpa.
We got to talk about tulpas.
What's a tulpa?
All right. So you know me.
I do.
When somebody's like, a giant thing jumped on my car, or like, I saw this creature, I'm like, okay, all right, hear me out. What could it actually be? Like, if they did see a thing, let's go through the list of things that we know are real.
Yeah.
And then work back from there, all right? So you've covered sandhill crane.
Yes.
Also, people thought that perhaps it was a barn owl.
I saw that too.
Yeah, because of its very round face, and the eye shine from a barn owl is usually quite orange.
How big is a barn owl?
Not very big. It's
Not
about
man size.
about that big. I mean, like it
That
could
would-
eat a squirrel. Like
That would be the world's worst, like, big fish story.
Yeah.
If someone saw a barn owl and was like, a Mothman.
to be fair, so right away with the whole wings and like man-sized person flying over the grave diggers and stuff,
Yeah.
the very first thing I thought of was owls, because at night in flight, first of all, you cannot hear an owl, so you have no idea it's coming.
Terrifying.
If it flies directly over your head, which they are wont to do because they swoop down to get stuff, they appear in flight to be substantially larger than they actually are.
Yeah.
Have you seen, like, when you're flying or driving down the highway and an owl swoops into your view of your headlights and then out, and you're like, what the fuck was that? Like, you just immediately like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Also, owl flight is very moth-like. It's very fluttery. If you've ever seen an owl fly during the daytime, it doesn't fly like a hawk.
Right.
So they fly very different. Also, their eyes face forward on their heads, and their eyes make up a majority of their face. And they have very dramatic eye shine. Also, they make a wide variety of noises. So barn owls in particular make that super terrifying, like a barn owl call is the haunted house owl screech, like the scream. It's not like a hooting. It is a metallic sounding, sharp, terrifying scream. And if you were in the middle of the woods at night and something cut loose with a full-fledged barn owl scream, you would pee your pants. Like,
Oh, I believe
especially
it.
if it was like right by you, you would just be dead. You would be on the ground dead. Dead. That's it, I'm dead. So
Go into one of those other dimensions.
I was like, okay.
Yeah.
However, owls chasing people in their cars at 100 miles an hour? No.
Not happening.
Has a person ever had that strong of a reaction to an owl where they couldn't figure out that it was an owl? Not usually. Does it land on the hood of people's cars? I mean, sure, but then you'd see that it was an owl. So
Especially if you're staring at it for
it's probably not
undetermined
an owl.
amount of time.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen a lot of weird stuff with owls, but
Yeah.
never in my life have I been like, it's a Mothman.
I mean, they can definitely look, because, I have my owls here, and I've seen them on the flagpole on the shed we're in. And then I've also seen it on the ground.
Yeah.
And at nighttime, sometimes I fully thought it was a coyote
It
once
looks-
until I saw it fly away.
Vastly different. And when they're
When
on the
it's
ground
like
and their
when their wings are out
out
and they're like hunched.
yeah, and
then
they
it comes
cowl
up.
over stuff to
They
block.
can
and
look way
yeah.
bigger.
They spread their wings out and they start bobbing and weaving and they clack their beaks and they sound like a metallic, like a thing. It's very weird. So, okay, maybe, possibly. There are other less plausible hypotheses, like a mutant
From the radiation.
from the munitions plant. I'm like, what
saw
kind of
that
munitions did you think they were making in there? All right, like.
Yep.
So people are saying it could be an undiscovered species, and it was like a large gliding vertebrate that can just whoop right up into the sky without a flap, just like freaking Space Ghost, like that's sure, all right. By the law of physics. Now, I was searching for some kind of an explanation. I was like, how in the world could an entire community in the 60s go absolutely insane? And then I was like, but this isn't the first time this kind of thing has occurred.
Mm-hmm.
So,
especially during that time.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So what else could cause this? And you've already touched on this. Fear response and social contagion, I think, are the two most likely culprits here. So when someone or a group of someone's, in the case of the two couples, and then drove directly to the police and law enforcement was involved, this sighting that could have been any number of things. Right. Could have been a prank. Could have been... one side note is those two couples that went to the police, on many of the accounts, it's noted that they were well known to the police. And I was like...
oh, the Scarberries. Classic case.
These two young couples driving around in a car at 11:30 at night.
What do you think they were doing?
And then they're like... You know, it would be really, it'd be great.
They were probably smoking the devil's lettuce.
We drove right to the cops. We were like a giant 8-foot-tall Mothman chased us here, man. That's why we were speeding and kind of drunk. You know, like, that seems way more likely, doesn't it?
Yeah.
However, what happened afterwards doesn't fit with that, right? Like, these four people saw it. Yeah. They went to the police, and then the police had a response as if this was a real, credible threat, which then lent legitimacy to this sighting, which then caused more people to feel comfortable saying when they saw a thing that was weird, like, oh, hey, that I also saw a thing.
Oh, absolutely.
So pretty soon, a pattern starts to emerge. It's seen in and around the TNT area. Yeah. It's seen with no physical evidence. There's never any feathers, footprints, droppings, tracks, nothing. There's nothing. Not a thing. There's no photos. There's no video. There's not even...
There's some photos.
People say there's photos.
I have one I want to show you.
But it's not like Bigfoot, right? Where there's a plethora of faked images and photos. And it's not like
I found like a photo.
Yeah, it's not like Bigfoot where people are constantly saying a thing in this photo is Mothman.
We found footprints. Look at this tuft of hair. Yeah. It was from a man.
Yeah, like
you paid for a man's hair.
You paid $150 for a strand of man's hair.
That poor man looks so disappointed.
He was like,
so this belongs to a man. Yeah. Well, maybe Bigfoot transformed into a man.
The person you bought this from walked around a corner, yanked it out of their own head, put it in a jar, baggie. You know, or whatever. We're like, $25. Like, that's just okay. So
it happens.
If you look at it through like a scientific lens, it's weird. All the sightings in the 60s are weird, especially in 66. But they're weirdly consistent. Yeah. You know? So there are some things that you can also, because it was covered by the press, and it was so these details are being put out, which then implants in the minds of the rest of the community this 7-foot-tall thing with glowing red eyes and wings. And that's all that people are hearing, right? And they're getting increasingly freaked out. And cops are there, and military's there, and it's a munitions factory, and it's just getting high, and it's the 60s, and it's the space race, and our enemies, and
so many things
nuclear annihilation. You know, people are just... They're out of their minds. The boomers have lost control. Yes. They're out of their minds.
Yes.
So again, what is it? After all this, if you want to think about it, obviously it's a cryptid, right? Yeah. It could be a government experiment gone rogue.
Oh my God.
Could be an alien scout. It could be a misidentified sandhill crane. Probably not.
What if it was just like... Because things have gigantism, right?
Not as common as you would think.
No.
Pretty rare. Most think because it also any kind of mutation involving like gigantism a lot of times impacts organ systems.
Oh, yeah.
So, like in humans, for example, humans are one of the only species in which something that's gigantic can survive because of modern medicine.
Yeah.
So it's not a very common mutation.
Probably wouldn't get that.
Yeah.
It's just a giant crane. Arguably scarier than a Mothman.
Also, like,
just a
the
huge
whole concept,
bird.
Yeah, the whole. I don't even know how that would work in animals either. Like, what genes
what would have to
work
happen.
or not work? Yeah, for something to be ginormous.
Because even with like the radiation argument,
The time,
wouldn't it die?
the whole mutation thing, like here's the green ooze that makes you into
Here's
a
the
ninja
three-eyed
turtle.
frog from The
Yeah.
Simpsons.
I think people grossly underestimate the amount of time it takes, with the exception of Chernobyl. But I mean, it's been a while, and there's been enough generations of animals, fungus, plants that there have been, like, they're starting to find notable genetic changes in life forms in and around Chernobyl.
So trippy.
But, like, for something to be a giant 7-foot tall mutant, or like the Swamp Thing, which I would love. I had a huge crush on Swamp Thing. No one is surprised.
That was your Mothman.
Fucking loved Swamp Thing.
Some people are just, they're into Mothman.
It does say in here, I have in my notes, like, Mothman, people's problematic crush. It does say that in my notes. So, because it's taken on a weird life of its own. And the people of Point Pleasant, we will get into the people of Point Pleasant have embraced Mothman as their own, much in the way that the Hodags
Yes, they
have been embraced. So that's all good. There's another aspect of Mothman we haven't discussed yet, which is that Mothman has been assigned a very specific role now in cryptid pop culture, which is that Mothman is actually not bad, not evil, not a creature of ill intent, but a harbinger of doom.
Yes.
That if you see the Mothman, something terrible is going to happen. In fact, bringing up Chernobyl, there were supposed sightings of a Mothman-like creature in and around the area of Chernobyl before the meltdown.
Same with Japan.
Yep.
Same with the Russia apartment bombings.
Yep, the bridge collapse.
The Silver Bridge.
The Silver Bridge collapsed. I think like 46 people died or something, and people are claiming Mothman was seen on the bridge days before. So Mothman has been assigned now this role as a harbinger of doom. Mm-hmm. Which I find
could be a warning.
Yeah, like, beware! Mothman has never done anything to anyone in any of these, like,
there's no,
sightings.
Attack.
No attacks.
Except for that guy who's like, my German Shepherd went missing.
Yeah. Which, it just ran away, bud.
Probs.
Like,
maybe it was
terrible.
Old.
You're a terrible dog owner.
A coyote.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, after all of these roles, I was like, what could possibly be? And then I saw a little, like, a side note, and it said, in like conjunction with this whole like social contagion idea, that Mothman could very well just be a tulpa. And I was like, tulpa? Isn't that a running joke in the show Supernatural, where like regularly in many episodes someone has to suggest that the creature they're trying to hunt is a tulpa, much in the way you had discussed how in House everyone recommends or suggests it might be lupus.
It's never lupus.
And then one episode it is.
And then it is.
So I was like, oh yeah, the tulpa episode. So here's what a tulpa is. And a tulpa is a concept from Tibetan mysticism. Ooh. And it actually became popular based on the writings and work of a woman I had never heard of until I started doing research for Mothman. Ooh. And then I was freaking blown away. I was like, how do we not know about this lady? We never know anything about these cool women. This woman was...
She was be hiding them from history.
She was baller. Let me just tell you that right now. So, a tulpa. Concept from Tibetan mysticism.
Yes.
Originally referring to a being or object created through intense spiritual focus or mental discipline. In its original form, a tulpa is believed to be an independent consciousness or entity brought into the material world through meditation and visualization. So, in Buddhism, this was used, or like a way that a particularly enlightened practitioner of Buddhism through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of meditation could essentially manifest like an aspect of the Buddha.
Oh, shit.
To interact with themselves and have spiritual conversations and like just basically have almost as if it was an independent entity speaking with you that you have generated with your own mind. That you have worked hard on it and you have spent hours and hours meditating and you have given these thoughts and this personality. But in Buddhism, it's a spiritual practice.
Okay.
So it was meant for high levels of enlightenment so you could continue this journey in your own mind.
Not an easy thing to do.
Now, the tulpa theory, actually, I'm going to circle back here because my notes are out of the order of how I want to talk about this.
Mine are too.
But the idea of the tulpa actually came to Western society through the writings of an incredibly amazing woman, Alexandra David Neal.
Ooh.
So she was born in 1868, and she lived to be 100 years old.
Damn!
And passed away in 1969. So,
Summer of love.
Right? She was French-Belgian explorer. She was a spiritualist, Buddhist scholar, writer, extensive traveler. Now, she did get married, but would frequently leave her husband. And she told her husband on one of her, because she took solo trips everywhere.
Hell yeah.
Solo trips in the 1800s.
That's crazy.
And through the early 1900s, she told her
She's a vagabond.
She told her husband she was only going to be gone for 3 months. She didn't come back for like 14 years.
What? 14 years?
She was like, bye.
What are you going to call him up? Send a telegram?
Now, this woman, this woman is fascinating. So,
I'm already fascinated.
As a teenager, she had already expressed in the 1880s, she had expressed that she had no interest in living a life like women of the time were expected to live.
Queen.
She was a classically trained opera singer and performed, but became extremely interested in Eastern religions and Buddhism and left her life in Paris to travel to India, China, and Tibet. She immersed herself in Tibetan culture. However, she's a woman, which at the time was not particularly easy to navigate.
Yeah.
Especially
traveling alone.
Yeah, and in India, Tibet, and China at the time, that was not... You didn't have access to places.
It's sketchy to travel alone now.
Yes. So she started writing early on. She had published in her lifetime 30 books, I think. But the one that brought the idea of the tulpa to Western society was a book called Magic and Mystery in Tibet, published in 1929. Ooh. And in this book, it introduced concepts like tulpas and other mysticism to Western audiences. In the book, there are a few passages where she directly references the tulpa that she chose to create, and then how this tulpa became problematic, and she had to choose to uncreate it. Before I get to her tulpa, so she ended up, like I said, authoring more than 30 books. She died in France at the age of 100. Damn. She also is famous for she traveled around, and like many people of the time, like when you look back on things that they did, you're like, what was going on there? So when she like pieced out and was like, yeah, I'll be back in 3 months later.
14 years is crazy.
She literally moved into a cave where she was meditating. She took on a ward.
She's Mother Shipton.
Yeah. She took on a ward who was a teenage boy.
That is.
Who eventually became her adopted son, and he was her travel companion. And when she was...
Indiana Jones?
When she was in Tibet, she would pretend to be his Tibetan mother to gain access to places. So she would...
God.
I mean, straight up racist, right? But she would like darken her skin. She would put on a disguise, and then she would just be like a quiet elder mother and fake that she was from the region while her son, quote unquote, did all the talking. She also...
Damn.
Yeah, but she did gain access to high-level Buddhist monasteries and eventually ended up having an audience with the Dalai Lama of the time.
Really?
Who was already hiding outside of Tibet because of conflict with the Chinese government and the Indian government. She met with the Dalai Lama of the time. She had unprecedented access, but what she really wanted was to get into the what is the name of that city that's like the hidden city or the forbidden city or the secret city in Tibet called Lhasa.
I feel like I know what you're talking about.
So women were not permitted.
No.
That was fine. She dressed as a man and she snuck in and she ended up staying in the town
She's like, I live here now for the next 15 years.
For like 2 years. She hid undercover in this town. Yeah, and eventually they found her.
She's like a spy.
Yeah, and they expelled her from Tibet. They were like, "Peace, you got to go." After like 14 years of this woman was crazy.
Get out of here with your boobs.
Yeah, right. Get out.
That's crazy.
Yes. So she was like a remarkable explorer.
Yeah.
Nobody knows about her.
Never heard of her.
So
ever. Amazed.
Yeah.
Want to read her mysterious book.
So she spent years in Tibet, including clandestine stays in Lhasa, the city that she wasn't supposed to be in, that was closed to all foreigners.
Dude.
So, like, women, first of all, had one barrier of entry to religious spaces. Mm-hmm. However, no foreigners of any kind were allowed in Lhasa. None. No one that was not from Tibet.
Sacred place.
Fucking snuck her. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, I have mixed feelings about it. I'm like,
she just has like a mustache. Nothing.
Charcoal. She used charcoal and clay to change her complexion.
That's wild.
And spent time secretly living in Lhasa. And so she studied esoteric Buddhist practices from Tibetan lamas and hermits. Yep. She studied advanced forms of Buddhism, visualization, deity yoga, spiritual powers, generational thought forms, and tulpas. So, and she didn't just write about them academically. She did what she calls experiments on herself. So she used herself as a test subject for these spiritual experiments, which is how
probably the best way to go about it.
Yeah, which is how she invented the jolly monk. So,
oh my God,
the jolly monk.
Hold on, before we do jolly monk.
Yeah.
You're impossibly cold.
As if you could outrun me. As if you could fight me off.
Say it. You're a Mothman.
This is the skin of a Mothman, Bella.
It's just like dusty.